Marzieh Hashemi, thanks so much for being with us. An entity in turmoil is how Israel can be described right now. This after Tel Aviv Special Forces botched a mission that led to the deaths of 8 people. And in response, Palestinian resistance fired missiles. Now, Minister of Military Affairs Avigdor Liberman of Israel is announcing his resignation because of a ceasefire that has been reached between the Palestinians and Tel Aviv. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is hanging on to his government by a thread now.
Palestinians have been outraged by the position of the United Nations Security Council in failing to address days of Israeli escalated violence against the Gaza Strip. Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, said the Council's emergency meeting has failed to carry out its responsibility.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this aggression by Israel. They are the ones who precipitated this round of violence for the last 48 hours.
Mansour described the Security Council as paralyzed because it listened to the one country that is not allowing discussion at the Council, in a reference to the United States, which has always taken a pro-Israeli stance, mainly under President Donald Trump.
The failure of the Security Council in issuing even a statement about the Israeli aggression on Gaza is a reflection of the United States position, which is totally and absolutely supportive of Israel. The reality, though, is that the Palestinians learned the lesson, and they know that we have to rely on ourselves. And what happened in Gaza was to show Israel that if it conducts aggression, it will be received with resistance.
Kuwait, which represents Arab countries at the Council, and Bolivia requested the meeting that took place late Tuesday, following the worst Israeli violence in Gaza since the 2014 war between the Palestinian Hamas resistance movement and the Israeli regime. Meanwhile, Palestinian groups in the besieged Gaza Strip have agreed to an Egyptian-brokered ceasefire with the Israeli regime, stressing the resistance will respect this declaration as long as the Zionist enemy respects it. Analysts here say Tel Aviv doesn't have interest in another round of conflict. However, it's grappling with internal pressure to show strength. The latest escalation in Gaza Strip erupted late on Sunday when Israeli undercover units launched a botched raid on the besieged enclave that killed 7 other Palestinians and an Israeli commander. Palestinians say even if the UN Security Council had issued a resolution blaming Israel for the violence in Gaza, Israel would have violated it, just like many previous ones, even though Palestinians are disappointed that the Council had not come up with at least a statement.
Turning to Richard, your take on this, how significant is it that the Israelis actually initiated this attack and botched it? And we see the circumstances that are taking place right now inside of Israel. Tell me about that side of things, Richard.
Well, I think it's a pretty chaotic situation inside the Israeli government right now. And as you stated, it was this special operations unit that went into, special forces unit that went into the southern Gaza Strip that commenced the latest round. And I think that what we saw happen following that so-called botched operation, it led to a situation where the government now, the Israeli government may now collapse because the defense minister, so-called defense minister, and I would put quotation marks around defense because it's really an aggressive occupying force, the Israeli military, that the Lieberman, who's an extreme right-winger, calls for the dispossession of the rest of the Palestinians, the driving out of the Palestinians, has resigned, and Naftali Bennett, whose party Israel Our Home, as it's translated, has the same position and has now insisted that if he is not named defense minister in place of Lieberman, he will leave the government, his party will, and then the government will collapse if that takes place, and there will be new elections. But I think what's clear is that Netanyahu and the Israeli military leaders, the actual generals and top officers, were not prepared to go to war again right now. You know, the Israeli military is very good at shooting people with sniper rifles from a long distance away, killing people the way that they've killed over 170 and wounded tens of thousands, and dropping bombs on Gaza, on civilian areas over and over and over again when there's no air defenses, but may not be so prepared for a new war, a new ground war with Gaza. And so Netanyahu backed away from it, and now we have the political situation that I just described.
Into civilian
I want to
centers in
look
Israel.
at why didn't we see any type of reaction from the United Nations with all this going on?
Well, because, of course, the United States is the great protector, and the United Nations Security Council is a highly undemocratic institution where 5 countries have the right to veto anything. The General Assembly has been really reduced to nothing but a talk shop now for many decades. And in the beginning of the United Nations, it should be pointed out, that was supposed to be the main body. But it has no power, and the Security Council has the power, and the United States protects the State of Israel because the State of Israel is an ally, is viewed as an invaluable ally in the Middle East to U.S. and the U.S. aim to dominate the entire region.
Israel because the State of Israel didn't start the war. Richard, you know full well that the UN is a club for dictatorships, for Arab dictatorships.
You know that.
And
it's just ridiculous to say
Richard,
Palestinians started the war.
Lee,
and Qatar
let's listen to each other. Wait a second, Lee. Richard, finish your thought, and Lee, I'll give you an opportunity.
The relationship between the United States and Israel is the one that protects the State of Israel, and the U.S. umbrella of power is spread over the State of Israel to protect it from any criticism in international bodies. And that has never been truer than it is under the Trump administration. No matter what crimes the State of Israel carries out against the Palestinian people and neighboring countries, and it's committed many, many crimes and continues to on a daily basis, it's protected because of the power of the United States as the dominant superpower in the world.